The Magic Thief, Chapter 28. Bennett, Keyston, and I turned off Strangle Street into an alley that would take us to Sark Square when four burly men loomed up before us. Minions, I realized. They had that oversized, mean-eyed look, and they carried clubs and knives. Drats! I'd been stupid. Crow had always had a word out on me, and now that I had the jewel locus magicalicus, he'd want me for himself more than he ever had. He must have every minion in the twilight on the lookout. Bennett stopped, Keyston and I behind him. "Run," he said quietly. Not likely. I looked over my shoulder, my heart jolted with fright. Two more minions stepped across the mouth of the alley. We were trapped. "Two more behind us, Bennett," I said. He cursed and pulled his truncheon out of his belt. All at the same time, the 6 minions closed in around us. Bennett stepped forward and, ducking a swung club, bashed one of them in the jaw. Another minion shoved Keyston to the snowy ground, and 4 of them grabbed me. I struggled as hard as I could, kicking and biting and trying to twist out of their grip, but they were too strong. "Bennett!" I shouted as the minions started dragging me out of the alley. One of them clapped a hand over my mouth. I bit him, and he cursed and cuffed me on the side of the head. Roaring, Bennett bowled through the 2 minions he was fighting and punched in the face one of the minions holding me. I wriggled out of a minion's grip, but another one grabbed my arm. Keyston sat on the ground where he'd been pushed, staring at the fight, his mouth and eyes wide. "Do some magic!" I shouted at him, elbowing a minion in the nose. Keyston pulled his locust stone from inside his robe and held it in shaking hands. "Do it!" I shouted again. "I can't remember any spells," he squeaked. One of the minions rounded on him, and he shrieked and scuttled backward into a snowdrift, away from the fight. Bennett cracked his truncheon across the hand of the minion holding me, and I wrenched myself away, groping in my pocket for my locus magicalicus. "Bennett, cover your eyes!" I yelled, and as he threw his arm across his face, I shouted, "Lothfulus!" As I pulled the stone from my pocket, the magic surged through it and blazed, white, bright, and blinding, filling the alley with a wave of light. The minions flinched away. I put the light out and shoved the stone back into my pocket. "Clear!" I gasped, and while the minions blinked the brights from their eyes, Bennett bashed one of them on the head and turned to grapple with another. The one I'd elbowed wiped blood from his nose, pushed me aside, and pulling a knife from his belt, slashed at Bennett's arm. Bennett grunted in pain. Panting, we backed away from the 3 minions left. 2 of the ones Bennett had bashed were just getting to their feet, and another lay on the ground moaning. The snowy ground was splattered with droplets of blood. "Get 'em!" one of the minions said grimly, wiping blood from his face, and they were on us again. Bennett swung his truncheon, connecting with a crack, crack, crack. His other fist was a hammer, and the minions were nails. A minion stumbled past me, blood fountaining from his nose. Another fell to the ground, groaning, but still the others kept coming. I only knew one other spell, and I didn't want to use it. But I had no choice. Darting behind Bennett, I clenched my hand around my locus magicalicus, chanting the Ambero. "Tumbril, tumbril, ular tambe." One of the minions came after me, and I dodged him, slipping in the snow, still reciting the spell. Then a cudgel whooshed through the air before me, missing Bennett and striking me a crashing blow on my chest. I gasped for breath, fell to my knees, and continued the spell. "Please, magic," I thought, still pant-chanting. "Don't turn Bennett into a bear because he hates it, and not Keyston either. Just the minions, please." With the last of my breath, I finished the spell, "Lilo Tarko Lilo Tar Kanan." And with a crackle of blue sparks, the Ambero spell exploded across the alleyway, flinging me back against a brick wall, then to the icy cobblestones. As the spell struck, the air cracked apart where the minions had stood, then slammed back together with a muffled boom. Blue sparks danced in a whirlwind. 4 clubs and a knife clattered to the ground. Where the minions had stood were 3 rats with scaly naked tails, a rooster, a black snake, and a little hairy man with a long tail, shivering and looking dazedly around. One of the rats snarled and leapt at Bennett's foot. He kicked it, and it squealed and skittered off down the alley. The others followed. Across the alley, Bennett, himself unchanged, leaned against the wall, holding his ribs with one arm, the other arm dangling at his side. Blood dripped from his fingertips onto the snow. Keyston stood, gripping his locust stone with both hands, staring at the black snake, which was slithering after the other animals. "I'm sorry," I said, climbing to my feet, aching in my bones. "It's the only spell I know." "It'll do," Bennett said. He nodded in the direction the rats and the other animals had gone. More where they came from. We needed to go to get out of the twilight. Bennett, wincing, glanced at the slash on his arm, then gripped it with his other hand to stop the blood. "Come on," he growled. We headed down the hill, the wind behind us, to the night bridge, then down the steps to the secret tunnel to the islands. I tried to walk carefully because my ribs ached with every step. My face throbbed where a minion had hit me. Finally, we reached the first gate, where I pulled out my locust stone and spoke the opening spell. The gate crashed open. Bennett shoved his booted foot in the way to stop the gate slamming closed again. Keaston's eyes grew wider as we blasted through the rest of the gates to Heart's Ease. When we went through the last gate, I said to him, "Run and tell Nevri we're coming." And without even hesitating, he dashed away. At the bottom of the stairs, Bennett paused. His face looked green, and the blood seeped between his fingers. I waited with him until he nodded, and we went up the stairs. Nevri's journal. Was writing up conclusions about magical decay. Heard door downstairs slam open. Secretary dashed up the stairs into study, eyes wide, panting. Said they'd been attacked in the twilight. As they came upstairs, boys looked well enough, but Bennett's arm wounded, dripping blood, had his hand on Boy's shoulder, steadying himself. Cleaned and bandaged nasty gash on Bennett's arm. Checked egg-sized bump on the side of his head. He shook me off, pointing at the boy. "He got clubbed," Bennett said. "Ribs." Boy protested, but got him to take off his sweater and shirt. Had nasty seeping bruise the size of a saucer, but rib bones not cracked or broken. While he got dressed again, brewed tea, adding pain-killing herbs, and gave them each a cup. Not a mark on Secretary, from what I could see.